I would say a lot of the reasons I do most of the things that I do is like kind of a big fuck you to a lot of people. We were building tools so people could be like the next Burnt Banksy, right? Like I'm not an artist. If you have an idea to be able to build it, that's that's the most unstoppable force. Not to sound fucking cliche, but that's like it's huge. We truly believe that the only way to kind of move forward as an industry as a whole is for people like to not know that they're interacting with crypto, for it to break out into this next kind of echelon of users. I think that's where XION comes in.
Hey, everybody. Lawrence Linker here. I'm super excited to come to you with another edition of The Blueprint. Today, we'll be talking to Burnt Banksy, a very exciting and funny young man with a very deep history in crypto, who is building an exciting general abstraction layer 1 called XION. Without further ado, let's talk to Mr. Banksy. So, Burnt, maybe just for those of us that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So my name is Burnt Banksy. I got that name, some of you might have guessed it, by burning a Banksy. It's starting about like 2.5 years ago. I bought a Banksy art piece, bought it as a print and lit it on fire. Sold it as an NFT, and we got covered by some of the biggest news outlets, CBS, Forbes, TechCrunch, GQ, BBC, everywhere from San Francisco to Shanghai. But with the real idea in mind of bringing, kind of crypto to this retail audience, and really wanted to say the fact of like, if it's not in my living room, if I can't see it and I can't touch it, where's the value in it? And then kind of disproving all the naysayers by selling the NFT for 4x more. That's kind of my origins, and then the rest is history, and I'm sure we'll dive into that.
How much did you pay for the Banksy?
We paid $90,000 for the Banksy.
Okay. Number one, I didn't know you could get a Banksy for $90,000. I thought they were like
they're not that bad. It's a 1 to 500. So it's a print. It wasn't. If I wouldn't do an original, that would be. I would be a jerk.
Right. And was this before XION?
This was way before XION. XION was probably like 18 months old. And this was before even Beeple's like $69 million.
Oh, you're a real NFT OG. Okay.
Yeah, dude.
Got it. Because I was about to say, man, I just can imagine going to an investor asking for money after you just bought a $90,000 Banksy and burned it.
So clearly I'm fiscally responsible, so you shouldn't trust me in my seat.
Yeah, that's not so much a bear market move, right? Like I feel like
no. I mean, it was in hindsight, it was definitely like we were edging peak bull. It was like February, March of 2021. Yeah.
Oh man, I miss those times. Those are the days of like, right? Fuck it, burn the Banksy.
Fuck it. Yeah, right. We did it like 2 months too. Like now I got to measure things in sprints, and it's Kanban boards. Now I'm just like, let's just burn a Banksy. How quickly can we do this?
So let me dig in on this story. This is such an original origin story, but I guess from what I'm hearing, it sounds like you were already into NFTs. And you were trying to promote this idea of like, fuck the physical artwork. Like, let's direct all the value to the digital ownership, right? In fact, to the point that we can actually burn the digital, the physical artwork. Is that about right?
Yeah. I mean, it was like, I would say a lot of the reasons I do most of the things that I do is like kind of a big fuck you to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Just because I believe it to be true. And so it's like the start of the Burnt Banksy was, I loved CryptoKitties. I loved my CryptoPunks back in the day. Obviously not to where they are now, like, back in the day. And like back in the day it was like Zed Horse and like early Axie, and that was kind of it. But it was like, I love them. Like, and I totally saw it. Like, I'm like, art is going to be on the internet. Like, we have scarcity in a digital way for the first time ever. That's fucking huge, right? And people are like, oh, but it's not art if I can't show it in my living room. And people, as in like my mother and my family and friends, friends outside of crypto. But and so it was just like, okay, well, let me take this, this very famous art piece that, sold in a Sotheby's auction, has quote unquote value that you could live in your, show in your living room. and let's make it into an NFT, and we'll destroy the original, and we'll see if it has value. Like, I honestly, if I'm gonna be honest with you, we had no idea what it would like. I didn't think we were gonna make money off of it. Genuinely, like
Mm.
we were like freaking out the day of, because it was like $40,000 was like the lowest bid, and we're just like, oh my god, like that's great. Like, we only lost half of our money. Like,
Mm.
but like the story, the things that we wanted to tell was just like so much larger.
What did you end up selling the NFT for?
Yeah, it was in ETH, but it was like 400,000 US dollars. But obviously we didn't sell the ETH, so it's still but denominated in ETH.
Amazing, dude. I mean, so it turns out that it ended up being a phenomenal business strategy. In fact, I'm wondering if everyone else who owned that print was like, I burned mine too. I buried
Dude, you want to laugh? I had so many people reaching out to me of just like, I have a Banksy print. I have the Banksy original. You should light it on fire. And it's like, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. That's just going to be arson. I don't want to get arrested.
That's right. Yeah. Awesome, man. That's so cool. Dude, so let's back up now. I want to hear about, I'm looking at you. You look like a young guy, and this was already a few years ago. I want to hear about who you are and how you got into a position to be buying Banksy's.
Dude, it's crypto. I mean, everything's been crypto for so long. I got into crypto. I was with let's say like the CEO of Injective. Reason I got into crypto is we were both mining Ethereum in my dorm. We were mining a bunch of crypto in our college dorm rooms, and this is how we got close. And we were here up in New York, and so it was like back when Consensus was pretty cool. It was here in Brooklyn, and Uniswap was just kind of starting, and a lot of early crypto really, really, really happened here. And so I would just say that like my early start was just pure crypto. Started off as mining, and then just like, I hate saying I'm a trader, I really do, but like at the time it was just like a bunch of kids just being fucking stupid. And we're still just a bunch of kids being fucking stupid. So it's just, now we know the thing or two, I guess.
Yeah, but tell me, okay. I mean, I understand maybe you want to preserve some anonymity. So if I ask you any questions that you don't feel comfortable sharing, that's fine. But like, maybe just tell me a little bit about where you grew up, how you first developed an interest. You said you were mining in your dorm room. Like, how did you first hear about crypto? When did it become super interesting for you?
I mean, I think everyone always had that crypto story of like, you always had a friend in middle school who was buying drugs off of Silk Road, and like that was a lot of people's first foray into like Bitcoin and stuff like that. And I always found it really interesting. And I was also like, I mean, when I was growing up, I was actually like, my trajectory was like professional Call of Duty player. Not to flex or anything, but I'll kind of flex here. At one point, I was the number 16 in the world at Hardcore Search and Destroy on Modern Warfare 3. Not to say everything went downhill from there, but it was like, I've always been interested in just kind of gaming and kind of computers for a while. And it was like, and then you can make money off of this shit. And it's like, oh my God, that's the best of both worlds, really. And so it was like, I realized that I could get free electricity from my dorm room if we just built this computer. And I've been building computers since I was a kid. And I knew exactly everything that I needed to do. So I just, here in New York, we ran over to B&H Photos. GPUs weren't that expensive back in the day because no one really knew what mining was. And we bought a bunch of GPUs. Dude, it was so bad. We went to Home Depot. We got like one of those like metal like shoe racks. We zip tied a bunch of GPUs to like a open motherboard. It was the biggest fire hazard I've ever seen in my entire life. And then we did it 4 other times and like didn't learn our lesson. But it was just like, we were making money. It was things that we loved doing. And it was like, dude, it was so fucking cool. Like, frankly, it was just fucking cool. And I think the interest slide, like the ICO boom, like was like shortly after, like a year or two after. And you just felt like, especially here in New York, you just really felt like, you were part of a community that I think, and I'll continue to say this, like for the core group of people that I know, but it's just like, you really just feel like you're all pushing towards kind of the same goal, whether you're a validator, whether you're a user, whether you're a trader, whether you're a builder. That feeling of like rebellion and revolution will never cease to exist in any one of them.
And what is that goal for you?
if you were to bring it down to one word, it's not necessarily removing trust, but removing the need for trust. You know, and I think you can break that down into a little more by what it allows, right? Which is like cooperation, collaboration, digital scarcity, you know, transparency, anonymity, self-governance. You know, but I think at that kind of root level, it's trust, or like, I don't want to say the lack thereof, but this concept where the idea of trust isn't necessary. You know, code is law in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe the opportunity for independence that brings.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the reason that we started building was just like we wanted, you know, we were building tools so people could be like the next Burnt Banksy, right? Like I'm not an artist. I didn't know what I was doing. I just wanted to have fun. And it was like the exposure that you get and like the network that you get and the ability to just, if you have an idea, to be able to build it, that's the most unstoppable force. Not to sound fucking cliche, but that's one of the most unstoppable forces. If you have an idea and you can execute on it to a global audience, and anyone can do it, like you're not limited by region or status or anything, it's huge.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So rewinding now, you are, so you said that, you know, everyone has that friend in middle school that is buying drugs on Silk Road. Just to give you a little taste of maybe a bit of a generation gap between us. For me, it was the friend in grad school that was buying drugs in Silk Road. That was how I heard about, first heard about crypto.
I just doxed myself.
No, all good. Parallel experiences. But you got an interest in crypto. You started mining using your free electricity in your dorm. What was the point that you said, okay, I want to really take this seriously?
Oh, I got kicked out of the dorms.
How'd they find you?
Dude, I was tripping the breaker almost every other day. I got greedy. I totally got greedy. But I was stripping the breaker of the floor every day. And we had obviously I would flip it back on like immediately. People would be scared, right? And it was like I had found a monitor in the garbage of like walking to, I don't even remember where I found this. It was a monitor, didn't work, but I like had it on my desk, and I told them I was a professional Twitch streamer. Like when they came in and be like, why are you using so much electricity? I'm like, I'm a Twitch streamer. I obviously kind of need this to run my rig, and I need to have the best graphics, etc. That's why the graphics cards, you know, like
that doesn't sound right.
It's like, I don't know enough about what the fuck you're doing to actually question you. And then they actually thought I was hacking the school. Like they like the blatant term of like hacking. And then I'm like, okay, no, I'm not hacking the school. I'm just mining Ethereum. And then they're like, okay, well now you definitely think we're hacking the school. What the fuck is Ethereum? And so I had to like explain to this board of like 7 just 50 to 60-year-old like white men what crypto was and what I was doing, and like and then I was not allowed back in the dorms. It was not a fun experience. I mean, it was a fun experience, but that was effectively when like we went around to WeWorks and we're like, what are their electricity costs? And we're like, all right, the better legitimize exactly what we're doing. We can't run off free electricity forever, I guess.
So okay, so you guys basically had like a mining business going already. Like you were taking it seriously. Like you thought of this as like a business. Okay. What were you studying?
For my first year, I went in for finance, and then I left with computer science.
Oh man, crypto. you're like literally, the prototypical crypto.
Literally. I mean, literally, like I went in for finance, and like I get it. I kind of loved it a lot, but it was just like there was so much more power. Like, what am I going to learn? How to balance a fucking balance sheet? Right? Like, no, I'd rather learn how to work with the shit that I'm doing. And, you know, it was ended up being like what I enjoyed. I just didn't really study it. And it was like 1 year in, I'm like, fuck this. Fuck this.
So Burnt, just to give you an idea of like my objective with this podcast, right? Because like for XD Academy, we're trying to be the solution where people can upskill quickly and learn about crypto. That's like our goal. Because my view is that it's just really hard right now. If you're someone who has sort of a casual interest in crypto, the space is not super friendly to you. Most of the people who are able to learn a lot about crypto, I feel like tend to have like a very high level of motivation to learn because you have to sift through a lot of garbage to get information. What was your learning process to where you were able to get to where you are now?
Well, it's interesting because I mean I think that's like a lot of what we're trying to solve at Zion. And I know we'll probably dive into that in a little bit, but I think that's exactly what we see the problem of the industry is that there is like too much of a barrier to entry. And it's like I always say that you don't know the industry until you've been rug pulled, right? And like that's you shouldn't take you losing all of your money to learn the industry. And you're gonna I mean I've gotten rug pulled many times. Like I'm not impervious to it. I've clicked the wrong links. I lost a couple. I think I lost like an Azuki being like last week just by clicking on the wrong link. And it's just like should have fucking known. But it's like that's just not great for an industry.
Yeah.
You know, and it's trial and error. It's like I think being a builder in the industry it gives you kind of a different perspective as well, especially when you want to build like good UXs and you want to build good products. I mean, well, I lived it, man. I don't know. I feel like the you look at all like the YouTube videos of the history of DeFi, and it was just like I mean, I was here for DeFi Summer, I was here for the ICO boom, and it's just like I would say that like modern crypto history really kind of starts at like Ethereum ICO, frankly. And I think that just seeing everything unfolding and kind of, once you learn things, you kind of have that baseline of understanding, right? Just of existing in it. And everything after that is just additional and then increasing your baseline. And so
I guess that's my question. How did you learn? How did you learn like the initial stuff?
I mean, it started with the mining rig, right? It was understanding what proof of work was. It was understanding what proof of stake was. Ethereum was going to go to proof of stake, right? Deflationary currencies. And then I would say, you learn it's hard, right? You learn different things, right? Because when I went off to go build, Burnt as a company, I ended up learning a lot more about, I ended up learning a lot more in greater detail about Rust, right? And I end up learning in greater detail about the languages that kind of power everything and the differences in like mechanisms. And now like where I'm at right now, I'm reading things on kind of different signature schemas and how to do like threshold or like weighted encryption, and really just trying to solve that from like a fundamental issue. And it's like I always give like a very similar example to people who are like really, really new into programming and they're like, what coding language should I learn? It's like, doesn't fucking matter. Like have a goal in mind and then just figure out from there. And for me, the first thing was mining. The second thing was understanding ICOs. And then kind of on top of that was the projects that I was building. But I mean, especially back in the day, there were no resources. Like it was a survival of the fittest mentality where the only thing we had was white papers and a Twitter thread. But I think, and it's probably actually more of a disservice to the people now because of how many like clickbaity Twitter threads there are and how much just garbage there is out in the ecosystem. But I mean, if I were to say where to learn, well, just learn Solidity. I mean, there's like a great YouTube video of just like the history of DeFi that I always show everyone new who joins. Rec News, just read everything on Rec News. You'll get it from there. But yeah, it's depends what you want to do. You want to be a trader, you want to be a builder, you want to be a user, you want to be a staker, you want to be a node. Like it's find what part of it makes you passionate and then figure out what you can do for there because it's an extremely wide industry that's ever expanding and I don't know everything. Like I've been here for way too long, but I don't know everything and I won't know everything. I hope I never know everything because then we're not growing fast enough.
That's really good advice. I think we might have to come back a little bit to the how. I'm still curious about that, but let's talk about Zion. So you have started a new project.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think where Zion starts is, you kind of have this immense problem with crypto, which is, this terrible UX, terrible onboarding, immense amount of jargon, huge learning curve, mega barriers to entry. It's complex, it's lengthy, it's unfamiliar. It's things that we were just talking about, right? But like at the end of the day, Web3 just has a fundamental adoption issue, right? And so we built Zion, which is a a general abstraction layer one. And kind of what does that mean, right? That means that in kind of simple terms, we just want to abstract everything complicated, right? Everything that a user would need to learn from the experience, and just abstract that away and make it so that a user can just take the benefits of crypto while everything, while the signatures, while the interoperability, while the concept of gas and payments, all of these things are kind of abstracted into the back end. And so at the end of the day, we want to enable a seamless experience for just everyday users and build the environment for that. And that's what XION is.
How does XION do that exactly?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of account abstraction, right? You have 4337. For us, we have our own version of account abstraction, but on a protocol level, rather than being kind of a contract like 4337. But in addition, we're actually signature agnostic, which means that you can sign with the Solana signature curve, you can sign with the Ethereum signature curve, or you can sign with the Apple signature curve, like Face ID or Touch ID. Also trying to extracting the kind of concepts of interoperability, being able to have all of these kind of other L1s and other projects being able to kind of connect to XION on this kind of general abstraction layer, right? Additionally, like we kind of had an announcement, like I think it was like 2 weeks ago at this point, which was an announcement with Circle and kind of like a strategic kind of partnership announcement where everything's denominated in USDC. We do accept literally any token, but it also allows us to accept credit card and debit card on a protocol level, which is what we mean by abstracting away the payments. Additionally, like since everything is a smart contract, we don't actually need to store any private keys in a browser, which means we don't need any wallets, which means that mobile is even easier than ever because you don't need that concept of a wallet. It's a lot of words, right? And it's hard to say we're extracting all the jargon while still talking about all the jargon. But at the end of the day, like we just want to make a Web 2 experience for Web 3. And I think that's the only way that we really break into this mainstream. And for us, we've been building a lot of products for a while. We've seen a lot of this industry, and we truly believe that the only way to kind of move forward as an industry as a whole is for people like to not know that they're interacting with crypto, and not in like a sketchy, shady way of like, oh, it's over here, but it's like people want the benefits of crypto. You have a co-op apartment building is always like the best example that I like giving, which people engage in this co-op apartment building. They admit new kind of owners into the apartment building, and they want it to be good because everyone has a shared interest and they have this kind of shared ownership. And we've seen so much of crypto work, but we've seen it work for the small audience that crypto really is. And I think for it to break out into this next kind of echelon of users, I think that's where XION comes in.
Dude, you're saying so much stuff that's like blowing my mind. One that like I just got stuck on is, how do you interact with credit cards on a protocol level?
Hell yeah, dude. That's one of my favorite parts. Okay, there's a lot. I mean, we've been working 18 months, right? So it's been a pain in the ass, frankly, to try to mimic Web 2. And we always joke that it's just, we work so hard to try to mimic Web 2, right? But the way that it works is we work with Stripe and we work with like checkout.com, and we have multi-year contracts with both of these people for credit card processing. But since everything's denominated in USDC, we can effectively have this kind of on-chain one-on-one swap of like USD to USDC with CCTP, with this kind of partnership with Circle, that we have this kind of back and forth. So if you were to buy an asset, it would send to you and then auto swap in this USDC pool. So you kind of have this on-chain, off-chain, system that auto swaps, and it enables this kind of processing of credit cards to then be directly partnered with Circle and everything like that to be immediately on chain to buy the asset and then send to your smart contract address. And since it's not like a MetaMask, right? Since you could be using Face ID, this is like exactly how all of these things play together all in one, right? It's also on mobile.
Okay. And I guess it's still a little bit tricky for me to sort of visualize this. But yeah, it's okay. I kind of get the vibe for what you're looking to build. So you guys are saying like, look, it's still just way too hard to interact with Web3, infrastructure, you want to make it really easy by giving people sort of an interface that looks and feels a lot like Web 2 and has like sort of that backbone of blockchain and Web 3. When did you guys first of all, tell me a little bit more about your team. Like, who are you working with?
Yeah. The team is about 11 people. We're pretty much all engineers. Engineering manager from Flow, Core Cosmos SDK developer, X Unity, X. Jesus, I'm blanking right now. But for us, a lot of us is pretty kind of coming from like the L1 teams. X injective, exactly right. Like pretty much all of our team is XL1s, I would probably say, and then I think we have 2 front end, but mostly protocol engineers. Archway is another one. I totally blanked out on that one. And for us, it's a lot of the work that we have to do is on more so the protocol level and being able to kind of change the way that a lot of protocols think. Like a pretty good example is a lot of data availability layers tend to need asynchronous encryption, which a smart contract address doesn't have a private key. That's probably a really good example of that. But yeah, so we've been working on that for like 18 months, just kind of heads down on that.
Did you work on a layer 1 before starting XION?
I was at Injective for a little while, actually.
Okay, got it. And so you and I guess a couple of other people that you knew maybe in the industry said, you know what? I think there's an opportunity here to do something really focused around abstraction. Is that how it kind of got started?
Well, actually, we were building on Solana for quite some time. We probably built on Solana for, because we wanted to we built a lot of the early standards for Solana, the NFT standard and collection standard for Solana. And I love them to death. But like a lot of the reasons that we ended up realizing that we needed to build our own and build everything on the kind of the protocol level was just because of, how hard it was for us to onboard a lot of people onto crypto, right? Like we would explain to someone, hey, let's do an NFT drop, right? And they say, okay, well, how do I get my friends on? Oh, well, they got to get a Coinbase and they got to buy a Solana and then they got to transfer that over to their Phantom. And then, I'm sure I don't have to really kind of go through the whole flow, but it was more out of necessity and building for kind of ourselves, because we had built a product on Solana and we were doing like 30,000 monthly active users on that product. But the real issue was that was in a bull market where people trusted crypto, right? People were keen on learning about crypto. Once that bear market hit, we understood that no one would want to learn how to do it again. And obviously we were kind of right on that kind of assumption. And we believe that this kind of future would be in, especially given Sam, given Doe, given kind of everything that kind of went on and people's, it's funny for being like this trustless industry, we were the most untrusted industry. And so for us, it was just, we want to show that, right? We want to boast about how amazing we are, but people aren't going to believe, these exchanges anymore. People aren't going to be believing, honestly, they will, right? But people aren't going to be believing these lies anymore. And so it's like, you got to meet them halfway. You can't expect for a normal person who like doesn't even know what a difference between a stock and a bond is to like download a MetaMask and learn about for the product market fit of like complex financial derivatives, right? Like there's also this inherent thing of what do people need, right? Like people don't need a yield aggregator, right? People don't need, perpetual markets with 100x leverage. Like we as an industry want that, but it's like if we want the mainstream users to use this, it's not going to be through a DEX.
So I feel like this is a great lead in because this is exactly what I want to ask you is what do people need?
Dude, and I'll get into right, and you go into that, right? But it's like
it's
concepts that we haven't seen yet. It's concepts we haven't seen yet, right? Like we're not going to make a better Netflix. We're not going to make a better Spotify. We're not going to make a better, eBay, right? But we're going to take concepts of cooperation and collaboration and the ability to be cross-border and just combining people together. I think a really good example of that, like I always use the apartment example of just like co-ownership and collaboration. But I think, having like a moment in time of just like actual digital scarcity where it's like five people from different parts of the world can all come together and build something and then sell it and monetize it and get equally distributed and paid and all act as like actors to it is incredible, right? Like even look at Bored Ape Yacht Club, right? Everyone who owned a Bored Ape, Eminem, Snoop Dogg, they were actors of Bored Ape. They were acting in the interest of Bored Ape by promoting Bored Ape. They were using their influence to promote Bored Ape because A, they wanted it to succeed. They had an aligned incentive to succeed, right? And now let's apply that to everywhere, right? Like, let's look at like a company like Galaxy who does like, a company like Galaxy who does, this kind of community engagement, right? And you get an oat or like an NFT every time you do this. Think about like how you can engage a community for like Crayola by, I don't know, showing Timmy has 15 boxes of Crayola and is now a super fan of Crayola. Like the sky is the limit. And I think we've just completely yet to touch the surface with it because Timmy's not going to get a fucking MetaMask, right? Like it's just what it is. And so there's just so many things that we have yet to even see because we're just so trapped in this kind of in this bubble, right?
Yeah.
This echo chamber of what this industry really is.
Yeah, I think, and it's funny. You give a good example, right? Because MetaMask actually is super easy, right? As far as like crypto products goes. But there's so many people that even the idea of like, hey, you have to use this browser extension, they're already out. They don't even. That's already too much.
Out.
What do you think? What can you give me an example of a product that would work for Timmy?
We compete with Web 2. Like it's logging with his mom's email. Like it's what they're used. Like people are used to flows. They've been doing it for 20 years. To change that habit is going to be very hard, especially for something that they might not know the benefit of. Right. And so Timmy probably has an email, or he probably has like, at this point, he probably has a Facebook. I don't know. But like, it's probably has a phone number. Right. And so being able to just use that, right. And not needing, like, I think the concept of a wallet was created. Actually, no, right. The concept of a wallet is created because we needed somewhere to store a private key and browsers are not safe. And they effectively act as like a bouncer, right? Just keeping it, storing your private key safe, right? If you don't need that, then why have a wallet? Why not? What is, right? Like, and so that's why we get into like the concept of smart contract addresses, where it's, for us, you can use a MetaMask to log in, right? You can use a Phantom wallet to log in. But you could also use an email. You could also use phone number. And then you could also use or you could use Face ID, or you could use any of those to recover your password and not have to write them down on a piece of paper and give your mom instructions on what to do when you die. Like those are just, it's the way we look at it here is our competition ends up not being a lot of crypto. It ends up being like, it ends up being Web 2, right? Like those are the flows that people are used to. Those are the flows that we as a company are holding us to a standard of making, because there's no slack. We can't give each other slack here. Because then why exist?
Yeah, I want to go back to something you said earlier, right? Which I thought was interesting. You said, we're not going to build a better Netflix. Why do you think that is?
Because I think Netflix is the best Netflix there is. Like, I think before Netflix existed Blockbuster, and I don't think Netflix is a better Blockbuster, right? I think it's something completely different that was allowed by the internet. And I think very similarly with crypto companies, you're not going to make a better Netflix. You might make a better way to watch movies, or a better way for people, indie film artists, to make movies. But Netflix is the best Netflix. I could be wrong. There could be a Harvard case study where I'm proven wrong in a couple of years, but the goal isn't to improve what we currently have. What we currently have it's great. It is great. I love Netflix. I love Hulu. I love all of these things, but it's just going to be different. And that's okay. Like, it's supposed to be different. The goal is to innovate, and it's to adapt. It's not, it's to take what we know from a first principles perspective, right?
Mm,
And so that's what I mean by we're not going to be making a better Netflix, because Netflix already is a better Netflix. We're going
mhm.
to be making, and whoever does it for video. I mean, I think a lot of it's going to be with like, I think a lot of it's going to be like not a single party, right? Like maybe A24 might be a cool example. Like I love A24. I'm a big fan of A24, and like they obviously have a bunch of different studios making things. You could probably maybe start to see a little bit of that nature there of just like, well, what if we took a bunch of different people and a bunch of different projects, and we're a production studio, right? But we took a bunch of different projects, and everyone's independently kind of adding to it. But it's like the brand of A24 is strengthened by every good movie. And this is just something that I'm actually thinking of off the top of my head. But it's like Hollywood as a whole could be completely, removed by the concept of like what we're providing. And just like on a scale, but also just like the ability for speed and the ability for like proper monetization and for people to do what they want, not be kind of controlled by this one single party. And that's, I mean, to answer your question, right? Like, we're not making a better Netflix because Netflix is the best Netflix. We're making something different because Netflix didn't make a better blockbuster.
Yeah, but Netflix did steal the market share from Blockbuster in terms of watching movies and maybe more broadly, like people spending their time and dollars on entertainment. So I do
Sure.
feel like there's a lot of opportunity to apply Web3 models to compete for those same hours and dollars.
I mean, I could argue probably similar with TikTok or social media, right? I mean, that's the whole. At the end of the day, you boil everything down. The only real constant is that you're battling for is just eyeballs, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
it's whether it's kind of silent movies to then being overtaken by the talkies to then being overtaken by you know Blockbuster to then being overtaken by Netflix mailing you DVDs to then being overtaken by Netflix and Hulu streaming DVDs to then I mean whatever it is, right? Like it's this iterative cycle of innovation that's only going faster.
It seems to me, right? If you look at Netflix or any of the streaming, vendors at this point, they really have two jobs. One is they're essentially asset management companies that take in the revenues that people pay them in terms of subscription fees and then reinvest those into making new content. So there's a role there of like, okay, what's going to be the best content for us to invest in that's going to allow the ecosystem to grow? And directly sort of tied into that is like an element of like taste, right? Like they have to kind
I
of
was going
have
to say culture.
exactly. And to me, that seems like something that could be done by a DAO.
I was gonna pull up one of my coworkers' computers, but you have a doodle right on the front of it, right? And it's like DAOs are. I always gotta give it to Bored Ape. Bored Ape is crushing it, dude. Like Bored Ape will be huge, and it's already huge, right? And it's you have the IP, you have the distributed IP, you have people branching off and making their own things with the IP because they own it, and the sky's the limit. Like I think someone I'll be honest, like I, for a while, didn't get it. I didn't get it. I didn't get the JPEG, like, PFP craze for a very long time. And then someone showed me, like, this, I don't remember, it was some NFT project. They showed it to me and they're like, these are going to be the next Transformers. Like, what? I'm like, well, here's the thing. Transformers started as, I think it's Hasbro. And they started from the top and they said, okay, here's this IP. And then they started making things. But it's like, we're starting from the bottom and going up, right? Here's the characters. Here's this, you know, you start, and all the community, right? You look at Bored Ape, Snoop Dogg, this, that, and the other. They act as like activists for it, right? And it's this aligned interest of everyone for the project to succeed because everyone has a part ownership in it, right? And the ability to see like Bored Ape as potentially like the next Looney Tunes, right? Because you can have like these weird influx of characters and toys and IP and things like that. It's an interesting new dynamic and a new way of looking at things that come from the bottom up, because we've never had a system that enabled things to come from the bottom up. You always had like one person on top and then distributing it down. And it's honestly yet to be seen, right? Like it hasn't been seen yet where we've had real major traffic of like real major traffic of like this bottom up approach. But I think that's what a lot of us are here for at the end of the day too, right?
Yeah, for sure. And where is XION now? Tell me about where are you guys on your journey currently?
Yeah, right now we just kind of opened up our testnet at about 350,000 wallets and about 1 million transactions already processed. We are kind of finalizing some audits right now, and then heading over to mainnet real quick.
How do you guys engage with your community?
Mostly Discord, Twitter. I think a lot of I would say mostly Discord these days. I would say back in the day it was definitely more Twitter, but definitely more Discord. I think I'm there daily. I keep it open. I had to mute it just because of how many notifications there were. But yeah, I would say Discord. I think you can actually talk to people there, and then Telegram, of course. I would say that we have a bunch of private groups on Discord that I would say that within the actual Discord that we interact with a lot more, which is it's a lot of people guinea pigs. I love you guys, but and I know I say it all the time, but it's thank you, because it's we do so much load testing that we just need to do because of how many times we've taken down networks and MPC wallets that we'd had to go away with because they just couldn't handle our load. And it's we even found that out in load testing. But it's I would honestly say that we've been I am such a huge proponent of community. You are nowhere as a product in this industry without your community. And so it's we engage with them. Just I wouldn't be here and it's just nice to see it too, right? Just I think people mess with the vision, right? People love it, right?
Yeah.
People get it, and it's just nice because you have that. It feels like you're marching with an army. You're not marching alone.
Yeah, I mean, the community is definitely everything in this space. I guess, how do you build a community without a product? I'm always so impressed when I see projects like yours that have hundreds of thousands.
Well, we do. We built a couple things. I mean, we built a game, right? To load test the network. We built a game to load test the network. We built a small community tool. Obviously everyone's welcome to look at our Explorer. And before that, we had a huge wait list even before that though. So I can answer that question even before, because we did have a huge community before the product and everything. But a lot of it comes with vision, right? People want to know that they're on a journey, right? And I think people are so keen in this industry, and it's something that I really appreciate, of just trying something new, right? And it's a double-edged sword. It frankly is, right? Because when you try something new, it could be total shit, right? And it's okay. A lot of the times in this industry, it's okay. But if you want to progress past it, you can't let it be okay. It's just what it is. But I think being in this industry for a while and having the partners that we do, and being able to engage with people and being yourself and having a personality as a company, and not being this ivory tower character who's just absent, right? I think people are keen for a new project to latch on to. And I think for us, before we started, I think our wait list was 500,000 people. And it was exciting. And it was it obviously started with us having one like and one retweet, right? But now we're at 200,000 Twitter followers and 175,000 Discord followers. And it's unreal. And the sky's the limit.
What's next for you guys?
I think we might have another test, another version of this testnet, frankly. I think this is alpha, whatever you want to call it. But it's I think we want to I frankly want to answer a lot of the question of what's there to do on your chain, right? I think you kind of see this in a lot of flawed testnets gone to mainnet come alive when you think your testnet is good enough for a mainnet, and then it just ends up falling short. Obviously, we won't name names, but like, I think that's a very big problem, and I think that's a problem that we see a lot. We just want to avoid, and so I would say that, like, if I was being honest, like, frankly, original mainnet goals and TGE goals were like actually this month, but for us, we just wanted to build out a much stronger ecosystem, and we have like 10 to 15 deploying, but just ensuring that like, A, our vision is kind of aligned, and like, you know, B, it's just the projects that we don't want a DEX. Frankly, we don't want a DEX. We don't want a yield aggregator. You know, we have that in the back end. Like, we work with Osmosis, we work with Injective, we work with a lot of DEXs in the back end to ensure that, like, people don't need to see this stuff. But that's not what we want to be, right? We don't want to be this, like, one of our investors said it. It's like there's an L1 in a box, right? Which, you know, every L1 comes with a swap, an NFT marketplace, and like a yield aggregator or something, or like a staking thing. And it's just indicative of the industry in my mind, of just like how cyclical and how, you know, echo chambery, if that's a word, you know, this
how redundant it is.
Yeah, right. It's the same thing over and over with a different name and like different whatever. I mean, I could
well, they can have it. Hey man, this has been an absolutely awesome conversation. I'm so inspired. Actually, I want to kick some ideas off camera to you, but I think this is the right time to close it out. How can people find out more about you and about XION? Let's drop some links. Yeah, I mean, check out the website, burnt.com. We were lucky enough to get that domain. You know, obviously check out zion.burnt.com. Follow us on Twitter, Burnt Zion, Discord. Believe it's Burnt Zion as well. Yeah, I would say check Twitter mostly. That's kind of where like the main news comes out. We treat Twitter like the news article. But then come to the Discord just to chat, just to, you know, join the early access group. Help me beta test, please. I really need it. We need to load test more. But yeah, or just shoot me a DM, shoot me a message. I'm always here to chat. But yeah, definitely read more. Sounds good, man. Burnt Banksy. Thanks for being with us.
Hell yeah. Thanks, man.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Burnt Banksy as much as I did. We'll put all the links in the show notes, so please go visit zion@burnt.com and check out what they're doing over at XION. But please also take a moment to check out what we're doing at xd.academy. We have new courses coming up all the time and lots of great material that I think that you'll really love. Thanks, of course, to our partners at the Spartan Group, investors who really care about founders. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.